give a big round of applause to this.
Oh, no. Oh, you never clap before you hear the dog. You never clap before you hear the dog. Oh. Well, thank you for the nice introduction. What we'll be covering tonight is, first of all, I've had some of you fill out the survey here. So what I'd like to do is get your responses, and then we'll work off your responses and weave in, for example, if you have a selling challenge someplace, what I like to do as we go through the workshop is say, hey, if you have a challenge here, pay attention to this selling skill or this selling stage, all right? Because you usually can do a pretty good diagnostic on it. And so once we do that, then we'll get the handouts going here, okay? But you, sir, do you want to get us started? And Keith, you said you had a lot of them checked, which is, I'm glad you're not doing impression management. That would be the first rule in sales, okay? All right.
So,
Any?
We sell custom plastic, metal, and electronic assemblies
Okay.
to manufacturers and assemblers here in the West.
Okay.
And so we have price objections.
All right.
Not getting to the decision maker. Ineffective prospecting and lead generation. And of course the chase mode.
Okay. Okay. Did anyone else have a few of these checked off? Who has price objections? Okay, so we'll put a couple check marks there. Anybody else have price objections? Yep.
No.
Nope. Nope.
I said something different.
Okay, you said something.
You're still on that. Never mind.
All right. How about decision maker? Who's having trouble getting to the person that actually writes that check? Okay, put a couple there. How about lead gen? Having the pipeline that's so full that you can walk away from business. You pick and choose who you want to work with. All right, got a few there.
How about everybody for that one, please?
Okay, all right. And then chase mode. Does everybody know what we mean by chase mode?
No.
This is when, and you'll see, and we'll definitely give you some good ideas on this during the workshop. This is when you've met with someone, and then they said, give me a call, and then you call them back, and they don't return your call, and then you email them, and then they don't return your email, and then you call again, and that's chase mode. All right. Okay. Now you had a different one?
Yeah, existing relationship.
Okay. Oh, yeah. What's your business?
Well,
You don't know.
which one? Yeah. The primary one right now is a website for fundraising for nonprofits. So I didn't have relationships with them. I don't have any.
Okay. All right. All right. Did anyone else have any different ones? And you can put some that aren't even on the chart. Yes, sir.
I had differentiate product service, but I kind of tweaked it because I like to ride a technology wave. So it's really finding the right technology wave to ride and then build the relationships along those waves.
Okay. Are you early stage technology?
Well, I like to be kind of at the where everyone's spending a lot of money stage technology.
That would be called that you're on the upside of the bell curve. Okay. So is it differentiating yourself or having them understand the value of it because it's so early stage?
Well, I like to look at it as finding intersecting points.
Okay.
So from what my experience has been and the types of products that I offer today, and maybe some of those are not as in demand,
okay,
to where people are today buying and try to find some intersecting points.
So is it fair to say they sometimes don't see the value in the product or service?
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Sometimes when we work with
I
early
think
stage.
it's defining and then.
Defining? Okay.
Defining those intersecting points is what I call.
See if we can give you some insight on that tonight.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else?
Make the deal bigger.
All in favor say aye. Make the deal bigger.
Oh, yeah.
All right, okay. And where'd that come from? Okay. And in your opinion, what is preventing the deal from being bigger?
Current requirements, you satisfy the current requirements of the client, and you're looking to develop future business or make the deal bigger at the time, provide more functionality than they realize they need.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to write that one down just so I remember it. Okay. Oh, thank you. The last time I did that, I went right up with it, so I wasn't going to. Okay. All right. What are some other ones? Any other ones? And as I said,
Confidence.
okay. You know what? Here's what I've got to say with lack of confidence is, and you're going to walk away with some tools tonight, because when you know more what you're doing, you show up better. And a lot of times if you don't have a defined methodology, you are brilliant, you got the best stuff going on, and then there's that energy piece that they go, well, this person doesn't seem like they really are that confident. So yeah, we'll absolutely give you some tools. I think that'll subscribe to that. Any other ones that you want to hit?
I thought all decision makers was a key point there.
Okay, let me add that one, all.
It's under getting to know the decision maker, but a lot of times there's all decision makers.
Yeah, especially in a complex sale. We'll definitely talk about that. Any other ones? Is that going to get us started?
Started.
All right, okay, so here's what we'll do, and Tom, maybe if you can help me, if you want to hand these out, or if you'd help me, you hand them out. And let's see if we can just hand those around the room. And I'll lay out how we're going to cover this evening is we're going to start first on lead generation. I'm going to give you some ideas on that. Then I'm going to cover what I call soft skills that yield hard sales results. We're going to talk about emotional intelligence. And then I'm going to wrap up tonight with some tactical sales training skills that give you a defined process, okay? So now we're going to make you do some work again. Let's have you turn over to that next page. And let me show you what this chart is. And actually, I got this concept from the Speaking Association. And so you can probably relate to this. So you have a lot of people that get into the speaking business and they're passionate, they love speaking, they're actually really good at it, except nobody knows they're any good. It's called the recognition vacuum. So the first thing, you've got to realize in sales, it does not matter how good your product or service is. If nobody knows about it, guess what? They're not going to buy it. So just like the speaking business, they have 8 competencies to be a professional speaker, because I realized this was a problem. Everybody kept working their platform skills, and yet people didn't know how to market. They didn't know how to sell. So here's what we've developed. It's called the 5 competencies of business development. And notice the title. It's called Something Old and Something New. Now, I understand, social media, it's now moving to social enterprises. Those things are all very important. However, I will challenge you that some of the good old-fashioned stuff still works. How many of you made a new connection tonight?
Met somebody?
Yeah, okay. So we like to combine something new and something old, because we find there's a lot of people at their desk and all they're doing is twittering and linking and all of this stuff, and sometimes you still need to do the belly button, all right? So here's what I want you to do. These are all the things that we're taking a look at make up a professional salesperson. So let me explain the columns. And I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in each item, 1 being low, 10 being high. So let's take the first column, prospecting. Okay, that's what I call the sweat equity column. And frankly, if you're someone that doesn't have a huge marketing budget, you can play there very nicely, all right? So ideal client, target client. If I was to have you to define your demographic, your psychographic, could you say, here's where we play best? Give yourself a 10. If you don't have that one really well defined, maybe mark it whatever score. Client referrals. How many referrals are you getting from your clients? How many are you asking for from your clients? How about referral partners? These are the vendors that call on your customers and prospects just like you, except they don't compete. How many of those? How well are you doing at a referral strategy? In associations, involvement, you're on committees, you're running committees, networking, serving on boards, cold calling, trade shows, workshops, and webinars. Now, we realize some of these may not be pertinent to you. However, what I am going to do tonight is challenge you that if you're not using some of these things, that no matter what your business is, you may want to take a look at them. Now, the next 2 columns, pretty self-explanatory. We've got publishing, speaking, sponsorships, interviews, book, all right? Give yourself a score on that. Marketing, website, email, newsletters, advertising, direct mail, LinkedIn. By the way, I just came from a meeting where one of my colleagues owns a marketing firm, and he said, direct mail is making a comeback. Okay, so I thought that was interesting. Yes, and he's real big into the social enterprise stuff, by the way. Facebook, YouTube, blogs. The 4th column is expertise. Are there any financial planners in the room? Wealth managers, accountants? All right, so this might be one that's really important in your business, because the more letters you have behind your name, the better, okay? So what are you doing for expertise here? Now, let me take you to the last column because these are our terms. Likability. How well do you feel like you read people, connect with people, size them up, and know how to adapt the meeting accordingly? I.e., you sell an analytical different than you do a high driver, all right? Setting expectations. This goes back to how well are you doing at not getting in chase mode? How well do you do at setting the expectation that I do need the decision maker in the room? So expectations can take on a lot of form. Sales story is this. If you are doing well at selling at full price, full margin, give yourself a good score. However, if you're getting price shopped, this is where it's happening, this selling stage. And then the next one is decision tree. How well are you doing at meeting with the decision maker or all the decision makers? Checkbook is how well are you doing at getting a budget before you write a proposal. Budget before you write a proposal. All right? And then if you're in a business where you have to have good presentation skills, maybe informally and formally, how would you rate yourself? And then give yourself a score in client retention. So what I'd like you to do, and raise your hand as we go through this if there's something you don't understand, then what I want you to do is add up your score and see how we compare to the total that you could get. All right? Everybody got the drill?
You can do 1 to 10 on each one.
You do 1 to 10 on each one.
Each one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
0 count.
No, we're not going to let you beat yourself up. You're here tonight. That should get a 1 on anything, all right? You're here tonight. You could all be home, as I always say, in my blue robe with fuzzy slippers. So, this is what we call in the training business an awareness exercise. And the whole idea in adult learning is if you create awareness, they're going, maybe I need to pay attention to what she says, all right? Okay, so which scores, let's just kind of do random here, which column did you find you could be doing a better job? Got all of them? Okay. Which one? Public relations, okay. So let's talk about this one, because you may go, well gosh, this seems like it's a little bit catered to your business, you know, publishing, speaking. So let's open up some minds here. So publishing is this. How many of you are good writers? Okay, how many of you are going, mm-mm. So the beauty of the world we live in today, you know, write down this word elance.com. You know, all you need to do is find somebody that can write for you and they can be your voice. Because when we start tracking where we get a lot of our business, talks are still a huge piece for us, okay? And then when I take a look at the next piece, articles are really good. And what an article does is it drives your search engine optimization, right? Google is like a shark, always looking for new food. And so if you're not a great writer, elance.com has a lot of freelance writers out there. And if they start getting familiar with your topic and speaking your voice, you know what? It can do tremendous amounts for establishing you as the authority and drive your search engine, get more pull marketing going on, okay? Now, speaking. How many of you would rather put a fork in your eye than get up and speak in front of a group? I know my mother, I think she's still amazed I do this for a living, and she always reminds me, you know, I'm a terrible speaker. I don't know how you got in this business. I said, Mom, your self-talk is telling you. I said, but let's go with it. Guess what? What's your business?
Graphic design.
Graphic design. So now, here's what I want you to think about with speaking. Could you bring in an expert that could augment what you do? Graphic design is marketing, right? So what if you found a marketing speaker that was very good, you introduce the marketing speaker, you get all the people in the room, or you do a networking event with a marketing person, your database, and guess what? You get exposure without ever getting in front of the room. So you guys find some speakers that maybe aren't necessarily right in your line of work, however, they'll get your prospects in the room. Because all of a sudden you do the exposure, you know, shaking hands. So I'll give you a crazy example we've done. How many of you think a sales training firm would get business from partnering with a law firm? Crazy combination, right? Well, now think about it. If you partner with a vendor that calls on the same prospects as you, mid-sized business owners, all right, that are looking to grow their sales team. Well, you've got lawyers out there that are called employment lawyers. And guess what everybody's got a question on when it comes to hiring salespeople? independent contractor, employee, what do we pay, where's the litigation, etc. So we actually partnered with a law firm. They invited their database, we invited ours. They talked about the legal aspect of it, and we brought in how to hire really top salespeople. So if you're not a great speaker, partner with someone or invite the speaker in, and then you be the person that introduces. Do you see how you start creating activity? All right. Sponsorships. How many of you donate money? Okay. So if you've ever purchased a table, here's what I'll see happening. People purchase a table, do it strategically. Invite 5 of your prospects and invite 5 of your clients to the table. Guess who sells the prospects at the table? So be strategic about it. If you've ever sponsored a golf tournament, I stumbled on this one. So I'm on the board of directors for Tennyson Center for Children. They have a lovely golf tournament at the sanctuary. And so one year, one of my clients couldn't show up. So I had 3 people, and I went, because you don't want to see me in that golf course, right? And I said, gosh, how about if you invite your best client? So they were thrilled. They invited their best client. Who did the best client get to know that day? Me. All right. So one of the things I want you thinking about, when you look at top sales producers, you guys, one of the things they do consistently is what we call sales activity. And if your pipeline isn't full, you're not going to be able to apply some of the skills I'm going to teach you tonight, because you're always coming from a scarcity mentality. So I promise you, if you can find 5 or 6 things, and that is the number I put on my clients, you need to have 5 or 6 things that you're doing consistently every month to bring in activity. It's kind of like a financial portfolio used to be, because I don't know what's happening with our financial portfolios, but think about a financial portfolio. Number 1 rule is diversification. So if you have 5 diverse ways of creating opportunities, one month a talk will work, the next month publishing will work, and you've always got something bringing in business, all right? Okay, so that gives you some more ideas. Here's a book, okay? Gosh, if you've got a prospect, could you send them a marketing book? Because graphic is marketing. So get a book that kind of augments what you're talking about. You don't have to write it. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. There you go. All right. Who else has a, what's your, let's see. Tell me. Yeah, but what was your business? Did I get you? I think I got your business. Yeah, what's
We sell custom plastic metal.
Yeah, I did get yours. I'm just, I do have to tell you, I did get up at 4 this morning. It's just been a really weird day today. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So, what would your customers like from a book? Let's see if we can find it.
Engineering data.
There you go.
And we have a PDF online.
Yeah. Be a shortcut for them. All right. Okay, what was another column that maybe it didn't score as well? And don't worry about the 5th one, because we're going to cover that pretty heavily. Any other ones that you went, I could do better in? Prospecting, okay. And the column. So so let's take a look at prospecting. In your business, which one of these are you doing? Are you doing any of them?
Oh, yeah, I think I know my target client.
Okay. So let me give you a strategy that's way underutilized. I'm going to talk about referrals here. You do need to know who your target client is. And then one of the things you can do, you guys, you start cold calling other vendors that call on that prospect. So who else calls on your, who's your customer? Give me a name, title, brick, mortar.
Staples.
Staples, okay. So who else calls on Staples? What other vendors call on Staples?
3M.
3M. So you got a 3M rep. Who else calls on Staples?
Nestle.
Nestle, okay. So we got a couple there. Let me pick on someone else in the room. Bill, what's your business?
I'm an executive leadership coach.
Okay. Who else? So big bosses, presidents, CFOs. Okay. Who else is meeting with those folks that doesn't compete with you?
My niche is closely held companies, not the Fortune 100.
Right.
So this could be almost anybody offering IT services.
Okay. IT services. Any private equity guys?
Well, if they have a physical product, then they've got shipping, because they've got to deliver it.
Okay. All right.
So these are people that look to relationships with FedEx and the rest of them.
They might.
Shipping organizations.
Now, I'm just going to throw out something. The main thing is start getting some people on your team. If you get 4 referral partners out there, power partners is what some people call them, they start understanding your business, they have the give mentality, generosity, and reciprocity, I promise you, you're really going to do a bunch to A, increase your pipeline, but the second thing is this, the stats show this. When you get introduced into a customer, it shortens the sales cycle by 50% and the same number goes in place, increases ratios by almost 60%. I have done 2 call meetings, close the deal. Yes, I'm pretty skilled on selling, I better be, or you'll get the heck out of the business. You know why? When I get referred in, I've got these people that I have really scrutinized. I only want the best people on my team, so my customers go, I don't want to meet with 4 vendors. Gosh, Bob, he's a good guy, I'm already doing business with him. If he referred Colleen to me, I'm going to meet with her. And in some cases, they might meet with 1 more consulting firm. Yeah, so this is a great strategy. So, pardon? Yeah, but here's what happens, you guys. We have a KPI around our office. It's called the give goal. And so 5 times a week, we want to be giving introductions, leads, or providing information that's of value, maybe sending that PDF over. And what you find is this has been talked about before, and yet people aren't doing a good job of it. And at the end of the month, you want to track how many introductions did I give? How many opportunities did I create for my partners? Because the law of reciprocity and generosity goes into play. And reciprocity is a principle of influence. Dr. Robert Cialdini, author of the book Influence, he talks about it and he said, you know what, Ian? If I give you something as a human being, you feel obligated to give back.
That's true.
So the reason half the time referral partners don't work, A, you didn't get the right people on the team. So the first thing I coach people on is when you go out to coffee with someone, hey, Bill, I think we can help each other. I think we call on the same clients. Tell me what your business development plan is. You know, Bill goes, I got nothing. Bill's going to be my friend. He is not going to be my team. Because you know who I want on my team? People that are doing the work. And this piece you can control, all right? So if Bill says, you know, not too much, I'm like, oh, okay, great. I'm going to go with someone that's saying, well, I'm doing this, this, and this, because guess what? They're going to be able to introduce me to opportunities and vice versa. So this.
All of my clients are friends.
We'll make them into paying friends. Let me put one more note here. How many of you are doing a newsletter? Okay, so here's a way that you could hit 3 things here. In the newsletter, look at interviews. So again, find a subject matter expert that augments your business. So I'll give you an example of what we did. And then, by the way, you get a YouTube video embedded in it. So now you've hit 3 things. So Deborah Fine is a friend of mine. You know Deborah. Wrote the Fine Art of Small Talk. She's hysterical. She teaches people how to have conversations. So last December in our newsletter, they're tired of hearing from me. We have her as our guest, and she talks about how do you have small talk, do good small talk during the holiday season. See, it was pertinent, right? So we then had her in our newsletter, all right? We're interviewing her. The clients love it. It was a relevant topic to them, and we also had a YouTube video. And YouTube drives SEO. So if you're not doing the YouTube videos, you guys get on it, even if they're bad. Google doesn't qualify if they're good or bad. Your customers do, all right? But it is one of the drivers of search engine.
What about Vimeo and some of the others?
You might be more familiar with some.
Vimeo's like YouTube, kind of.
Okay.
But it's probably a lesser use.
Vimeo has higher quality. YouTube drives SEO.
Okay.
Google doesn't own Vimeo.
Google just owns the world, basically. So you have to pay attention to what they're doing. We've done a lot of work with internet marketing companies on sales. So and then the blogs, you guys. If you're not writing 1 a week, you're not blogging. Write 1 a week. You know, it's 200 and 300. So choose your 5 KPIs. What I want you to think about, this is called leading indicators. Here's what too many people do. They measure their sales activity plan by, I have 5 appointments. I've closed this. And then if you're not hitting the 5 appointments or the 2 closed deals, it's because you haven't put a number on each one of these. So in our company, when someone joins us as an employee, not an independent contractor, here's our activity plan. 125 outreaches a week, cold call or email. 8 networking events a month. 2 influence meetings. Who needs to know about my business? How do I start building my team? They generally get me out for 1 marketing talk, or if they've got the ability, they go out and do 1 marketing talk. They also have to fill an executive briefing, which is held once a month with 10 people, and they have a give goal of 5. Do these folks know what they need to do to make business happen? And it's a pretty robust plan. Now, it's one that I know works for our business, and we're doing the LinkedIn and all of that too, all right? And I do the blogs, so we've got the marketing arm. But here's my point with it. There's some people that actually can't handle that activity plan, and it is the activity plan it takes to get the speaking, training, consulting business off the ground. So basically, get the numbers down, and here's the objectives. Better qualification of opportunities. And the reason is, when you have lots of opportunities, you naturally qualify better, whether you've had formal sales training or not. Has anybody ever really been busy and you just go, I don't even know if I want someone else? You run the meeting a different way. You naturally qualify better. And increase the number and then establish key performance metrics. So I wanted to start, there's a lot you can do here. There's skills that are associated, but I basically wanted to give you this page to say, hey, choose 5. Get good at the 5. There's lots of people you can partner with. You don't have to be an expert on everything. Questions from this page? Yes, sir.
The marketing and interface networking you were just describing.
Yeah.
Would a meeting like this, a presentation like this, fit in one of those categories?
Yeah, I would say it would be networking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is, what you see, it usually always starts here. Who's my psychographic and demographic? Because then I'm going to figure out where to network. What associations to join, perhaps what boards to join. Who do I cold call? What's my messaging when I call them? So you really always want to start with that target client, and then you build a lot of things around that.
It was something like this as opposed to the Elks Lodge or something like that.
It depends, I don't know.
I do the Elks Lodge.
Well, you know what you have to look at? There's some things that are okay, but just go, that's my fun quota. This is helping me hit my sales quota. Yeah. And that's why you track, you guys, because we have found there's some things we thought were really, paid fees for these big associations, and we were getting nothing. And it was always interesting. We just did it again, and these marketing talks kept popping to the top. And it wasn't maybe necessarily that night. They might know somebody. Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm just curious with boards, how you target them. Because if you're on a board, it's generally not really kosher to do business with that company because you're on the board. So how would you target a board that would be helpful?
I'm talking nonprofit boards. And I should probably distinguish that there. So generally, here's what you want to think about with nonprofit, is most people want to show up where their heart is, right? However, you can have heart in capitalism, okay? You can donate money and you can also make a lot of money. So I just recently, and they just get to know you is what it is. And so what I found is recently, there's a big construction firm. He's new on the board at Tennyson Center. Just start talking, what do you do? And he goes, we just have an initiative with that. Give me a call. Now, we haven't landed the deal yet. We're in the game, though. And it was from somebody that got to know me at a board. Okay. Now, what are you checking, young lady? Have you not heard my technology rules? Oh, good. Okay, that works. That works. So you're checking email. Oh, and Wendy's got that, and I think she went home. See, I also delegate very well. If you see anything on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, it's Wendy. So, okay, let's go over to the next. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Could you please go over your activity plan for your
Yeah, and remember, this is for our business, but two things. There's numbers, and it's a bunch in the beginning, because I don't do some of that anymore, but there's things I still do. So 125 outreaches, which, by the way, if you're building a territory, so if anybody's hiring someone and they're building something from scratch, they got nothing else going on anyway. They got time to do this, okay? 125 per week. Mm-hmm. Combination of cold call emails, 8 networking events a month. I allow them 6 to 8. I've had people say I'm doing 8 because I do get those results, which, by the way, feeds into our executive briefing. So 8 networking events a month, 2 influence meetings. Gee, I cold call Mr. IT, Miss IT, and I say, you know what? I've been looking at your business. I think you and I call on the same customer. However, I don't really know how to refer you. Would it make sense if you and I got together for lunch or coffee? All right? And then you qualify them. All right? So 2 influence meetings, 1 marketing talk a month. Okay, we have an executive briefing where the minimum we want to have in that room is 10. It's a 2-hour sales seminar. A give goal of 5. So we're helping somebody 5 times a week to get the law of reciprocity in place.
Thank you.
All right.
What was the first one that you mentioned?
125 outreaches. Because it's interesting, you have to figure out for your businesses what works best. And you guys, it's so funny. If you put something out on, we did this, I think it was about a year ago, on the Sales Association, does cold calling work? If you want to see a big fight, you should hear people's reaction on, cold calling is dead. Other people are going, that's because you suck at cold calling. I mean, so, and you know what part of it is? Nobody really likes doing it. They're not very skilled at it. We still have people landing business from it. So that's why you do the something old, something new, and then track. But some people are saying, you know what, I'm getting so much more through email prospecting if it's done well. So I give people the choice there. But get the name out there. So let's go into soft skills next. And we'll talk about emotional intelligence. So if you'll turn to the next page and read the definition. And if I spit on anybody in the front row, that's just what goes with the territory.
It's like being christened.
I just start getting really
Very generous of you.
I know. I like to warn people at this point. Okay, now that's a very textbooky definition, isn't it? So let's break it down to layman's terms. Emotional intelligence is really knowing, gee, what emotion am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? And how does that emotion make me show up? So when you study emotion management, it's really making the conscious choice that when a stimuli comes in that I don't like, I don't care for, I can choose to still respond in the manner that is appropriate. How many of you have heard of the great coach John Wooden? And so we're writing a book right now on emotional intelligence and sales results. So I've been, in and out of all these books. John Wooden never called it emotional intelligence. I will share with you, he was a master at it. Because when he was working with his team, he worked as hard at the execution of the basketball skills. He also told his players, never get upset on the court, you won't be able to play the game. And he has a phrase that I love, manage your emotions or they will manage you. So let's take this, I'm going to give you some of the neuroscience, because one of the things you'll find with sales and influence is there is actually biology, psychology behind you being good in sales. And I think it's fun because for years I would just do it because somebody told me to do it. Have you ever had somebody go, do this, and you're going, I'm doing it, but why am I doing it? Okay, so I'm going to give you some of the why behind that. So let's take a look here at the neuroscience, and we talk about the anatomy and physiology of the brain. So how many of you have taken a course in neuroscience? I am always amazed. I get people every time. Okay, what was the reason?
It was undergrad.
Okay, all right. What's your business?
I board dogs.
You board dogs. Okay, we'll play. Oh, honey, you got an emotional sale going on. Oh, I want your business. I will take that order. No. Okay, all right.
Very good at that.
All right. And what was yours? Did you have your hand up?
I did.
In your business?
My business is coaching.
Coaching.
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. So let's talk about this. Now, you've got this lovely picture of Michael Phelps. All right, let's just get the elephant in the room out. Yes, he smoked dope, maybe he lacked judgment. However, right, when you study neuroscience, most of us haven't taken neuroscience. However, I bet most of you in the room have taken a biology class, right? All right, back in high school. So I grew up in a small town. We dissect the frogs. You put the eyes in the drinking fountain, get hold in the principal's office. That's what we did for fun. All right, that was biology. I was actually a health major. But if you take a look here, let's talk about human anatomy and physiology to make it make sense for us. So you've got Michael Phelps. Now, he is an Adonis. Brings home 8 gold medals from the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Fair to say that anatomically, he is probably superior. You know, these big hands, long arms, long torso, great speedo, all right? However, you didn't know, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't. So now, what we'd say there is, gosh, that makes sense. However, did he bring home 8 gold medals because of his neuroscience, his anatomy, all right? Or his ability to manage his emotions? Yes. Yeah, case in point. How many of you remember the race? First one, gets in the water, 200-meter butterfly, goggles fog up. what would the typical human being have done in the biggest race of your life?
Tried to wipe his glasses.
Yeah, I'd stop and wipe your glasses, go, darn, can't believe this is happening to me.
Something stronger.
Yeah, something stronger. Now, instead, if you study athletes, they train as hard mentally as they do physically. And Michael Phelps simply said, I will count my strokes. I've swam this race 1,000 times, which is what he did. And in fact, the story is that when he reached out to touch the wall, he could not even see it. All right? That's called managing emotions. So here's what happens. When we go back to neuroscience, this is often referred to as the IQ. And for many years, this was the predictor of success. All right? What they are finding, EQ, EI, is becoming as important, perhaps even more important for success in life and business. It's called the EQ versus the IQ. But you know what we want to look at? Both are important. Let me take you to another profession, and then we're going to take it to sales. How many of you know any trial lawyers? Anybody know? Okay, so Bill, who do you know that's a trial lawyer?
Mike Hunke.
Okay, and what kind of law does he do?
He defends medical insurance companies.
Okay, all right, he's busy.
He's very busy.
He's got a full pipeline, all right. Now, so your friend, IQ-wise, probably smart, had to pass the LSAT, 3 years more school, so decent IQ. Does he win cases because of the IQ and the knowledge of the law, or is it his ability in the courtroom when the opposing attorney tries to throw you off your tactic? It says, objection, or the judge rules against him. Which one is it?
Both.
It's both. All right? So it's nice to have IQ. However, under stressful situations, which we're going to talk about next, the EQ is really going to be the one that can get you out of jams. So let's go to sales. Let's have some fun with sales. So here's the, yes, sir.
Let me add this. Mike goes into these so well prepared. He's used his IQ.
Absolutely.
That when the unexpected comes up, he's already thought of something like it.
Okay.
So he can confidently respond.
This is a great point, you guys. And in fact, my husband is a prosecutor, the law and order type guy. We might work with him on a little bit more EQ, okay? No, he is exactly the same way. And one of the things I've learned from his profession, by the way, study all the professions if you want to get better at sales and influence, because he is so prepared, and he actually, when he's preparing, he can try the case from both sides. I contend most salespeople don't do enough thinking. Well, what if the prospect says this? What if the prospect says this? What if they say this? And here's the reason I know. When we do, let's say, objection handling, everybody can fill the whiteboard with the objections, and then I'll say, okay, you know the objection, what's your response? Nothing. You know the objection. What's the reason you haven't mentally rehearsed and verbally rehearsed the response? Yeah. So preparation, by the way, is what gains confidence. No, if you know, see, that's why he's walking in and there's an air about him. So this pre-call preparation, practice, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is huge. So thank you for bringing that up. So let's take a look at sales. So here's the scenario. And then I'm going to have you guys break into groups. You are at a meeting with 3 potential buyers. Okay, 2 love you. 1, not so much. Okay, anybody ever been in a meeting like that? You got 1 buyer, okay. Now what's it look like when a buyer does not love you? What's it look or sound like?
They're not paying attention.
And how do they not pay attention?
They might be just...
The new weapon is the BlackBerry. Yeah, they've got the email.
Even when you do things to
Yeah,
really call their
they're checking their watch, right. Now what can happen, you guys, is this can evoke a response in you, right? Yeah, and so we're going to talk about the responses, 2 of them in your groups. You can go into a fight response, or you could go into a flight response. So let's have you get into groups, maybe turn around and just get into 4s, maybe 5s here. And here's your assignment. So think about this scenario. You're in a room, or it's somebody else if you need to take yourself out of the situation, and you've got a prospect that's kind of dissing you. Or it's a grunt call. Have you ever been in on a grunt call? Yep. Nope. Okay, you're like, oh, this is fun. All right, so think of those scenarios and take about a minute and a half and discuss what's the typical response from a salesperson if they go into fight mode or if they go into flight mode, all right? Okay, so find your new best friends, find your old best friends. Oh, what'd you guys come up with? What's a fight response look or sound like? Yeah, what's arguing look like?
Saying no, disagreeing with the customer.
Contradicting the customer, telling them they're wrong.
Yeah, they actually, and we see product knowledge wars go on. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just put you in your place. You get some product knowledge wars, okay? All
Could be
right.
passive aggressive, making comments that you know will piss off that person that aren't directed to you.
Right. Well, you get what you pay for. Do you want a Cadillac or a Yugo? Let's try that one, okay? That's new and different, okay? All right, what'd you guys come up with? What'd you guys come up with for a flight response?
You ignore the guy.
Yeah, you can just ignore. Yeah. Because you know what? I'm going to ignore her even though she writes the check because I know after I leave they'll convince. Yes, yeah. Okay, we ignore them. What else do we do from a flight?
Not listening.
Okay, la 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 la. Not listening. Okay. Okay, so we start actually.
To schmooze her to get her to like you. I'm not arguing.
Okay.
To like you, and then you go back.
I'm going to put it down, but to remind me of where we come back.
Is that a flight mode?
Could be. Yeah, it's probably over there. Yeah. It's the wrong response, but I'm going to show you what we see with schmoozing is I'm going to engage her more. I'm going to talk to her more. Even though she's ignoring me, I'm going to talk to her more, all right? Here's a couple more. How many did you guys come up with practice proposals?
Well, no.
Okay, what'd you come up with?
We didn't come up with practice proposals there, but we basically came up with what you're saying. But asking direct questions is how I was going to say it.
Yeah. We'll get you engaged even if you don't want to be. Okay, you're right. Okay.
You came to the meeting.
You came to the meeting, yes.
Flight might be even ejecting them from the, or saying, why don't we set up, we don't seem all to be here, why don't we set up another meeting or something like
Yes.
that?
Sometimes you just leave. You finish the meeting early is what we've seen. Yeah. This is where we've seen discounting happen. So now what I'm going to lead you into is the reason we cover soft skills. We see an awful lot of people, individuals, entrepreneurs, companies, throw more sales training at it. And by the way, we're a sales training firm. So they'll throw more sales training going, gosh, I've got to teach them a concession strategy. I need to teach them how to negotiate. When the problem is this, no, you're not managing your emotions. You are reacting to that prospect. So you immediately, when they say, well, could you give us 10% off? Yeah, that'll work. Because I'm like this. Now, practice proposals are another one that we see. Does everyone know what I mean by practice proposals? A practice proposal is when they haven't engaged with you. All right, they won't give you budget. I'm uncomfortable sharing that with you. Really? I'm uncomfortable writing proposals when I don't know if you have any money. Okay. All right. Okay. So some of that could be a skill set. However, what you do is finally that person speaks up. I'm being facetious here, and they'll say, why don't you put something together? Could you go ahead and put together a proposal? And we're like, okie dokie. Now, you have no idea if they have a pain. You have no idea if they have a budget. And you're pretty sure they're not the decision maker. You went along to get along. That is a form of flight mode. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's where a practice proposal, instead of stopping, which will lead me into the emotional intelligent responses, we call it the sales elephant in the room. All of you have heard of the elephant in the room? We call it the sales elephant. So it's that dynamic that everyone knows about and yet nobody talks about. You know, it's the weird uncle that shows up at Thanksgiving going, great, Henry's here again. Okay, but nobody wants to talk about it. So what you have to do is you use your assertiveness skills and you just state nicely what you need. It's not all trembly because you're not mad. And you go, gosh, what's your name? Young.
Monica.
Monica. I got my dad here. I got that's my mother's name. So you'd say, Monica, listen, I get the feeling that what we're talking about today isn't of interest or value, and I'll take responsibility for that. Where do you think we should head this conversation? You stop the meeting. You are not having a dialogue here. And Pardon? Well, you put the burden of the sale, but you do it nicely. I'm not mad. I'm thinking she probably got drug into the meeting. You know, I'm trying to understand her story, empathy. Now, be ready for this. They might come back and say, I don't want to be here, or you're not. Now, if they come back, because the truth begets truth, what could be your response to that? You might shut down. So just get ready for it. Generally, you guys, I have found if I'll name the elephant, the dynamic of the meeting changes, the game has been called, and we're either going to engage or not.
It happened to me today.
And did you call the elephant?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Well, she wasn't giving me any content. She
Mm-hmm.
wasn't committing to anything. Yet I was, you know, giving her my life. Okay, more. and then something just, you know, I ran out of energy, and so.
Yeah.
And it changed all of a sudden. Things started to happen.
So you actually naturally you got
Somehow, you know, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't need to have, you know.
Yeah.
It's too much effort, yeah. It's just
Well, right, and see, you know, we always talk about partnership and all of that. So you have all these, you know, sales books out there. That's not a partnership when someone's not speaking with you. If someone's not willing to introduce you to decision makers, this isn't a partnership. If you're not going to share your budget, this is not a partnership. And just start tracking how many of those deals go anywhere. And it might be a one-time deal. Promise you, it's not a three-time deal or a client that's going to refer you. So just name it nicely, which is more about emotion management than even tactical selling skills. And I've won a lot of business by just turning the dynamic here. I had a prospect, now client, handed the proposal to him. If you just pay attention, he's looking at it. I could tell he didn't like it. And I said, Tom, you're not liking the proposal, are you? He goes, nope. I said, we didn't hit the mark? Nope. But I think you're close. Now, how many people would have just ignored it and go, I hope he likes the proposal, I hope he likes... No. Hey, I didn't hit the mark, you know, take the hit somewhere, and then we redid it and got the contract. All right. So let's go into a little bit more of this, and then we'll take a break here. So what I want you to know, this just isn't will, skill, believe, and achieve. And by the way, love all of that stuff. I want to give you, though, the neuroscience, so you can probably contribute to this. There's actually a part of your brain that kicks off this fight or flight. It's called the amygdala, often referred to as the old brain. And, you know, we like to use the example back in prehistoric times. So now think about this with the analogy of a caveman. So a caveman, because the amygdala serves you well, it does not do logical reasoning, which happens at the prefrontal lobes. It is this quick. So if a caveman saw a big bear running at him, did he sit there and go, gosh, he's running pretty fast? I don't know. I think I can outrun. No, I don't think I'm feeling too good today. And he's about 6 foot. No, what do you immediately do? Boom. It still serves you well today. When you're driving in Colorado, we're getting into snow season, somebody brakes in front of you. Do you sit there and go, gosh, I need to take my foot off the gas and put it on the brake so I do not rear end this idiot that's in front of me?
A 16-year-old does that.
Now, a 16-year-old, their brains aren't developed, by the way. Right? Yes. So it serves you well. But here's what I want you to know. If you aren't conscious of this, this actually kicks off. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight, too. Your prospects have an amygdala. And so when you use outdated sales tactics like, so if we could show you a way, would you want to? No, I think I really want to just keep losing money. And we still hear leading questions a lot. It was an old sales training tactic. So if we could, would you want to? Are you questions are leading questions. Gosh, are you having problems with delivery? Maybe it'll go, set up. If I answer this, see. So you say things like, not sure if you're having trouble with delivery, and even if you are, I don't even know if it's big enough to worry about. You start making this thing very disarming because the amygdala screens all content coming into the brain. It quickly says go, no go, go, no go. A lot about likability, trust, calming the meeting down. All right. Now the second piece is the basal ganglia. And here's the other thing you'll see happening. We have people that will come to sales training and let's say they'll learn a new skill. Now here's what will happen. Then you have somebody else that is prepared and they'll practice and they will get the new skill down. This is Physiology 101. You are all born with these neural pathways, which is a natural response because anything done repeatedly, it's these two neurons connecting, neural pathways, so you don't have to think about it. Then you get in a darn sales training class, you learn this new skill, there's no new neural pathway, and it's like this, and it doesn't feel good, it's uncomfortable. Now, some people will practice, ask for coaching, and the more you do it, it's like a muscle, and all of a sudden, guess what? It becomes your natural response. So either emotionally or verbally. We made up a number, seems to work, 144 times. You need to practice a skill. So for example, if somebody says, well, what makes you different than your competitor? How many people would have a good response to that? Okay, boom, that's called skill training. Well, you know what? I don't know if I can answer that question, but let me share with you why some of our clients think we're different. And you go into your value proposition. Or tell me about your company. Well, we're typically working with people in about 3 areas. The first one is hiring selection. They get really frustrated with trying to duplicate themselves or their top performer. They interview the person, very nice interview, that dog don't hunt. Second area is sales training. People are frustrated with price shopping, long buy cycles, can't get to the decision makers, starting to affect cash flow. Or the leadership area where top producer gets promoted, all of a sudden managing a bunch of sales cats, and he's managing more excuses than results. Now that's who we work with. I don't know if you have any of those issues. Do you have your value prop that tight? And that's not as tight as it should be. That's a neural pathway. It's called memorization 101, and not enough salespeople do it, and then they show up to sales meetings and get stumped. So it's both from emotion management and then skill delivery there. So here's what I want you to do next. Let's have you get in your groups again, and maybe just stay at the table this time. Buddy up with the person sitting next to you, and just look at some of the emotional intelligence attributes. These are the Reuven-Baron profile. And take a look at a couple, just for discussion point tonight, on a soft skill here, an emotional intelligence skill that you go, gosh, I'd like to know more, or I think this is one that would be important in improving sales results. So just pick out 1 or 2. I'll give you some background on that, and then we'll take a break. All right, so I'll call on Daryl, and is it Brenda? What's one that maybe you guys discussed?
Well, I think impulse control under stress management.
Okay. Impulse control. So let's talk about how this one can play out in sales. You actually develop this great value proposition, you deliver it, and the prospect goes, yeah, we are having that issue. That's a stimuli. What's the response a salesperson wants to do? We can fix that for you. You know, you've got to control the impulse to close the business, all right? This is also leap before you look type of skill. It also is a little bit like delayed gratification. Is everybody familiar with delayed gratification? Mm-hmm. So take a look at, everybody in sales know they should prospect, right? Everybody knows we should be doing this front page. Right. So why aren't we prospecting consistently? Is it selling skills or the fact that you need to put in the work before you get the reward? I contend it's probably both, okay? Because you have some people that work very hard, and if they're not skilled, they get discouraged with it. Delayed gratification shows up in major account selling. So here's what sales managers do. They sit down, they do the org chart, we're going to show you some of that tonight, and then they still can't figure out why that one salesperson is closing the smaller deals. Because smaller deals are quicker. They take less problem solving, all right? It's instant gratification. So you start seeing where some soft skills can prevent some hard sales results. What'd you guys have?
You got impulse control, self-regard, and emotional self-awareness. The inability to recognize when the other person is ready to buy and shut up and ask for the money.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, and the more emotional self-awareness is actually the foundational skill, and it's a lot of that what's going on, why is it. Here's where I see it playing out too. So let's say they lost that piece of business. They don't go home at the end of the day and go, gosh, what could I have done better? Because everybody lives in the world of busy. We got BlackBerries, we are never disconnected. And the only way you can increase your emotional self-awareness is downtime. And nobody's going to tell you to get it. And it is only in the downtime that you will get clarity of thought, purpose, and going, you know, I think Bob was ready to buy. I don't think I could get my lips to quit moving. That's called emotional self-awareness. Mm-hmm. But it takes downtime. And it's a big problem in society today. And that's why people keep repeating the same mistakes. What'd you guys come up with?
Problem solving. Mm-hmm. Optimism.
Okay.
We have others too.
Optimism is an interesting one because you actually have some data here that says, okay, optimism can make you money. There's a famous study by MetLife in the 80s, and they were having trouble with churn. If you know anything about life insurance, tough business, it's about a 5-year career path, and they had this very stringent hiring practice, and yet people were kicking out of the system. So they brought in psychologist Martin Seligman, who's written the books Learned Happiness, Optimism, and he said, let me take these folks that you've kicked out of the system, and I want to test them for their optimism. Well, surprisingly, they scored pretty high. So they said, I think you need to hire these people, give them a try. Now you fast forward through all of it. 2 years later, these folks sold 37% more than the lower optimistic salespeople. And these are the folks, their filter is different. So here's what'll happen. They do a whole day of prospecting, nothing happens, and instead of going, well, that's a stupid idea, I got to try something else, I think I'll go in this. They just simply go, that was one day, tomorrow will be better. And they just have these different filters and mantras that they live by. Okay? Did anybody circle assertiveness? This is a big one. I would absolutely circle this one. So for many people, see, if they're not willing to share a budget, let's talk, and we'll get into that piece in the tactical. Anybody ever had anyone ever had a prospect that says, I just don't have any idea. Go ahead and put something together. Yeah, okay, they all do, right. Now, the selling skill would be you redirect, get the scope, etc. People can learn that skill, all right? Here's what happens. They're not assertive enough to state what they need and just stop and say, Ian, gosh, I understand most people don't have a budget. In fact, we're very seldom on the P&L sheet. However, I really can't put together a scope unless we get a range. So should we roll up our sleeves and see what you've got here? State nicely what you need. Other people just go, okay, I guess I need to figure this thing out. Assertiveness is if you've been tracking and you've got to have this particular decision maker in the room, you state nicely. Hey, Keith, you know what? In our next meeting, we're going to need to have Bill in the room, and if he's not able to make it, I don't know if it's going to be worth meeting, because I have to tell you, my experience has been, Bill doesn't sign off, this deal goes nowhere. Okay? That's assertiveness, combination of selling skills. Yes?
Or on the other hand, some people who should not be part of the group, like wives or sisters. They always get involved, no husbands.
You know what? It's so, and if you say it nicely and say, and you tell a little vignette, and by the way, storytelling is a great influence skill, and you say, let me tell you a story here. Love wives, sisters, know them, got them, whatever whatever your gender is, and say, here's what's going to, and then you state it like this: here is what's going to happen. And I have to tell you, if that's what we're going to do, and if you've been tracking your business well enough, and you know this is not going to work, you guys can walk from business. Salespeople don't walk away from enough business. They keep wasting time on these opportunities that are never going to go anywhere, and then what it doesn't leave you is working on the opportunities there. And I think that's a little bit how we all grew up, living, breathing, got a pulse, need to close them. No. Yeah. So that's a good example. State it nicely. Okay? All right. Yeah. Empathy, even outside the emotional intelligence world, I would say is one that everybody agrees on, is found in highly influential people, both in a leadership position and sales. Now let me explain what empathy is. It doesn't mean I can necessarily sympathize with you. Although, if you've been in that situation, you can. Empathy means I can sit in your chair and I get where you're coming from. Even if it's an opposing opinion, I get it. So now here's what happens. The emotional self-awareness comes into play here because everybody's so busy and they're always checking in. I find people can't focus anymore. And if you're in a consultative sales meeting, you need to be so present to watch the eyes, shift in the body language to figure out what's your story. Yeah. So it's a biggie. So empathy is, you better know your, I'm always surprised in sales training when I say, tell me the day in the life of your customer. A lot of people can't do it. You can't be empathetic if you don't know what their life is like. Like a sales manager, I can describe their life. They're on planes all over. They're having to take airborne because everybody's coughing next to them. They get to the hotel. The bed's bad. So are the pillows. All right? All right. They're traveling with a rep. He gets lost. She gets lost. They go back. They got the CEO. Does that sound like you know their life? So when you're in a conversation, I can be empathetic to that. So know what the day in the life is like with your customers. Okay? So let's do this. Let's take a break. How long do you guys usually take a break? 15 minutes. If you guys could come back at 8, so I can get